Warning: the following radio play is a sequel to the MLP fanfiction Confessions and Considerations. It is highly suggested that you read/listen to that MLP fanfiction before listening to this. You can find the fanfiction at filmfiction.net, or you can listen to a narration that is also on this channel. Hello everyone, this is the Suited Gamer Guy here, bringing you the beginning of the fanfic radio play of the MLP fanfiction AppleJoy. The fanfiction AppleJoy was made by BronyNeumo. This is the prologue chapter. Sweet Apple Acres, along with the rest of the countryside surrounding Ponyville, was bathed in the brilliant glow of Celestia's sun. A light breeze stirred through the treetops of the orchard, bending some branches and blowing loose leaves from them. Each leaf that left a tree fluttered through the blue sky, coming to rest on the ground when the energy imparted upon its gravity running out, allowing it to settle peaceful on the grass-covered ground. Each new gust of the breeze brought down more leaves in this way, just as each new gust brought with it another fresh chill in the air. The chill heralded an unwelcome arrival. Each breath of cold air was another reminder that the nights were growing colder and longer. Winter was coming, and it was coming entirely too fast. The idyllic scene was only disrupted by a single sound. As the breeze blew and the trees swayed, a repetitive ringing noise sounded across the landscape. The noise rang out, scattering the peace that had previously hung over the orchard. Such noises had persisted throughout the day, coming and going, increasing and decreasing in tempo and frequency, but always retaining the same sound of an acute strike, the strike of hammer on nail. On a small, wind-swept hill adjacent to the Apple family farm, a little filly played in the long grass. The individual blades of green tickled her light orange pelt as she rolled, giggling happily to herself, as such young ponies are apt to do. The same breeze that disrupted the trees also blew through her mane. Strands of pale golden blonde hair, mixing with streaks of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet, were all picked up by currents of moving air as it whipped past the small Pegasus filly. AppleJoy was unaware of the coming winter and the dangers it posed. Her ignorance, a product of the youth that older ponies, those more concerned with the world around them, so envied. Standing on top of the hill, overlooking their daughter as she played on the slope, AppleJack and RadioPlay took a break from their work to contemplate that very world as it changed around them. Another chilled breeze whipped through their manes as they gazed out over the farm that stretched before them. The orchard was filled with row after row of fruit-laden apple trees. The whipping wind spun through the orchard and washed over them, causing AppleJack to shiver slightly.
I'm worried, Rainbow. It's getting colder and colder earlier this year. I hope we can get all the apple bucking done in time. I think winter's coming early and apple buck season's barely here.
In a well-practiced move that she had done many times over the past 3 years, RadioPlay lifted a wing and draped it over her wife's back, pulling her close so that their bodies touched, sharing warmth between them on the unseasonably cold day.
I know, AJ, but we'll get through it. We've been through a lot together.
She turned and gave AppleJack a small, light kiss.
Come on, we should get back to the house and help the others.
AppleJack and RadioPlay trotted a short distance down the hill before AppleJack bent down to scoop AppleJoy up and onto her back.
Mommy!
AppleJack smiled when she heard her daughter speak. Even though she couldn't say very many words, it still filled AppleJack with a sense of pride and love to hear her speak. All together now, the family trod down the last of the hill, the Apple family's farmhouse and the ponies working there coming into view as they approached.
There you girls are. Come on, let's get some more work done.
Twilight Sparkle looked cheery as she trod past them, levitating several boards in front of her as she did so.
We're on it.
AppleJack gently set her daughter down before she and RadioPlay picked up some supplies and tools of their own.
And thanks again for helping us build the new addition, Twi. It sure means a lot to Rainbow and me.
No problem, AJ. I'm glad my magic could be of assistance to you.
Hey, Big Mac, do you got enough nails over there?
RadioPlay called over to him as she stumbled across an extra box.
Yep.
Big Macintosh picked up the hammer beside him in his mouth and swung at a nail placed in the board that Twilight had just levitated into place. beginning to secure it firmly to the upright wooden beam that stood to guide the wall he was building. The sound of a hammer striking nails once again began to emanate across the farm.
Can I heal people, Jack? Oh, can I?
Sure, AppleBloom, but you have to wait. I told you, I'll let you decorate like you did for my old clubhouse once we're done putting up the walls.
Aww.
AppleBloom sat down and resigned herself to wait until the new addition to the house was ready for her decorating skill. Bored, she sighed and looked around, her wandering eyes finally falling into a small Pegasus filly, playing in the grass again. AppleBloom smiled. She always thought that her little niece was just the cutest thing she had ever seen. So focused was she on watching the foal play that she never noticed the pony who snuck up behind her.
Hey, AppleBloom, what's going on?
AppleBloom jumped at the sound of the voice and spun around to confront this new arrival.
Scoots, what are y'all doing here?
I heard all this racket, and I thought I'd stop by and see what was happening.
Oh, we're making the house bigger.
Well, duh. I can see that. But what are you going to be adding?
Well, now we have Fluttershy leaving here and her new fall due soon. We have to add to the house and build a couple extra bedrooms to make sure that every pony here or a visiting has a place to sleep, and a nursery to take care of the falls in.
AppleBloom grinned at the new level of responsibility she now had.
Just think, Scoots. I'll be helping take care of Joy over there, and my new niece or nephew. Or whatever. Ain't it exciting?
Taking care of foals? Doesn't sound very fun to me.
Well, I think having so many new family members is great. If you want to, you can come visit sometime. You can bring your parents. I'm sure they'll like to see the new falls, and I'm sure to finally meet them.
Yeah.
Scootaloo stammered, suddenly seeming very uneasy.
That'd be great. I have to run, so see you later, AB.
Bye, Scoots.
AppleBloom waved her friend off as she climbed up onto her scooter and zipped away into the distance. When she couldn't be seen anymore, AppleBloom turned back to her friends and family members, just in time to see Rainbow fly up and precariously balance herself on top of the wood-framed construction building with a hammer in her mouth. Pieces of the roof that she was to secure floated up behind her courtesy of Twilight's magic.
You be careful up there now, Rainbow. Don't hurt yourself.
I'll be fine, AJ. Some pony has to do the roof and it might as well be me. Besides, we have to get this whole thing done before we move Fluttershy to the hospital next week.
Rainbow Dash lounged on her back on the provided couch, her wings tucked safely to her sides, and stretched herself out, pressing her head into AppleJack's chest as she did so. For this, she received an affectionate nuzzle from the mare she rested her head on, causing both of them to smile warmly. Rainbow Dash felt calm and relaxed. The couch she lay on was comfortable, and the mare she lay on even more so. Even the little tile floors, plain whitewashed walls, harsh dimmed yellow lighting, and lingering stench of antiseptic that had served to irritate her to no ends when she had come to this place previously were now as welcome as an old friend. Her experience with them having been repeated so many times that she had grown accustomed to every little annoyance the hospital had to offer. Rainbow Dash gazed down at her own chest, where, rising and falling in time with every breath Rainbow took, AppleJoy slept soundly. Rainbow Dash smiled again at her daughter. She loved this little filly more than any pony else in all of Equestria. Well, maybe not every pony else. She decided as she leaned back to look up into the warm green eyes of her wife.
No,
She thought,
these two are about equal.
I'm so bored. Why don't we go back to see them?
SweetieBelle, honestly, you can't rush forward. It's a beautiful and painful process that can take hours sometimes. Just ask AppleJack.
Don't you even get me started, Rarity.
everyone shared a laugh at AppleJack's comment, although Rainbow Dash had to stifle the urge just to keep from shaking her daughter awake.
Although, it does seem like it's taken longer than I did.
I agree. I do hope the poor dear is alright. This must be absolute torture for her. She's so delicate after all.
Don't worry, Rarity. Fluttershy's been through a lot. I'm sure she'll get through this just fine.
Thank you, Twilight. I guess I'm just concerned for my best friend.
Aww, I thought I was your best friend.
Oh, PinkiePie. You girls are all my best friends. Fluttershy and I are just very close.
I'm so excited. I can't wait to see my new niece or nephew.
I thought you said you were too young to be an aunt.
Shut up, Scoots. You weren't here last time. In fact, why are you even here now?
Because you and SweetieBelle are here, and I've got nowhere else to be.
It's okay, Squirt. The more the merrier. I'm sure Fluttershy won't mind.
Thanks, Rainbow Dash.
Oh, Rainbow. Speaking of AppleBloom's nieces, how is your own little darling?
You mean little AJ? She's doing great.
I hear she came down with a cold last week. Is she alright?
Yeah, she powered right through that thing in just 2 days. I'm telling you, she's as stubborn as her mother.
That earned Rainbow Dash a smack to the head from an orange hoof, but not high enough that it hurt. It was a light, loving hit.
She's got a lot of her bullheadedness from her father, too, you know.
Hey, don't call me that.
Well, that's what you are, Sugar Cube. Can't change that.
You know I prefer Mama.
I know. I'm teasing you, Rainbow.
AppleJack grabbed the sides of Rainbow Dash's head in her hooves and pulled her back so her face was pointed towards her. Their eyes locked and they both smiled.
I know.
They shared a quick kiss. 3 voices sang out as AppleBloom, SweetieBelle, and PinkiePie all tilted their heads, watching the happy couple.
Ew! Gross!
Shut up, Scootaloo.
Ahem.
The sound of some pony clearing their throat caused 8 of the 9 ponies in the waiting room, AppleJoy being the sole exception, to quickly break off their conversation and turn their heads towards the spot where the sound had emitted from. Standing in the open doorway was a white earth pony mare. She had blue eyes that shone with a kind, caring devotion that came naturally to mares of her profession. Her normally well-groomed pink mane was messy after many hours of work. Her cap was dislodged for the same reason, although her characteristic bun was still drawn up behind her head. Despite appearing tired and overworked, she wore a satisfied smile. Confident that she had every pony's attention, Nurse Redheart spoke to address the waiting crowd.
They're ready for you back there. Normally, we only allow direct family members in, but Mrs. Fluttershy and Mr. McIntosh asked me to allow the other elements of harmony to see them.
The assembled ponies began to pull themselves off the provided couches and head towards the doorway past Nurse Redheart, who stood adjacent to the door. Rarity was held back only briefly as she had to explain how SweetieBelle was her sister and that she had to go with her and that no, she wouldn't cause any problems. AppleJack and Rainbow Dash took some extra time in getting ready. Making sure to be careful, they gently shook AppleJoy awake, hoping against hope that pulling her from her nap wouldn't cause a scene. Blinking the sleep from her pink eyes, AppleJoy yawned and stretched herself out against Rainbow's chest before rolling onto her back with a giggle, a wide smile drawn across her whole face.
Come on, little AJ. Let's go see Auntie Fluttershy and Uncle Macintosh and meet your new cousin.
Rainbow Dash smiled blissfully as she spoke to her daughter, gently placing her onto her back as she got down off the couch.
Mommy! Mommy!
I love you too.
With AppleJoy safely lying between her wings, Rainbow Dash smiled at AppleJack. AppleJack lovingly rubbed her cheek against Rainbow's, and the two of them, followed by AppleBloom and Scootaloo, head towards the door leading out into the corridor where their friends had disappeared not moments before. They began to file past Nurse Redheart, but Scootaloo, bringing up to the end of the line, suddenly found her path blocked by a white hoof.
I'm sorry, but who are you?
I'm with them.
Then what is your relation to the family?
She's my little sister.
Rainbow Dash, having overheard the exchange, had turned around in the hallway and returned out the door again. She glared slightly at Nurse Redheart while she had used a free hoof to ruffle Scootaloo's mane.
Come on, Scoots. Let's go see Fluttershy.
They both made their way past the now silent Nurse Redheart and trod into the hallway where they met back up with AppleJack and AppleBloom.
Don't worry about it, kiddo. She's just doing her job.
Thank you so much, Rainbow Dash.
Scootaloo hugged her idol's foreleg in appreciation.
No problem, Squirt. I couldn't just let them make you stay behind and miss out on everything. Besides, I think of you as a little sister anyway. I did teach you how to fly, remember?
Yeah, thanks again.
That was a good thing you did, Sugar Cube.
Yeah, I guess it was. I couldn't just leave her hanging all alone, could I? Besides, income's easier to me than it does to some ponies.
Rainbow Dash grinned at AppleJack, receiving a kiss on the cheek in return. They both started trotting down the darkened hallway, light spilling from an open door on their right telling them where to go.
Come Come on, let's go see the new foal.
As they approached, Rarity poked her head out of the open doorway. A wide smile spread across her face.
I think you mean foals, darling.
Wait, foals? As in, more than one?
Rainbow and AppleJack took off galloping for the lighted entrance, AppleJoy giggling as she bounced along for the ride and Phillies in hot pursuit. They slowed as they entered the room, not wanting to cause any sort of commotion. At the far side of the room, a metal-framed bed stood. It was flanked by a sink and a few other indiscernible pieces of medical machinery. PinkiePie, Twilight Sparkle, Rarity, and SweetieBelle stood around the room, clearing away from the door to let the others in. On a pair of chairs placed next to the wall on the right side of the room, 2 Pegasi, a mare and a stallion, an elder couple with wrinkles on their faces and streaks of silver in their manes, looked upon their daughter and new grandchildren with abject love in their eyes. They had flown from Cloudsdale just for this moment. Fluttershy and her 2 foals, occupying the centre bed, had become the centre of every pony's attention. Her pink, flowing mane had become dishevelled, and beads of sweat were visible. Flickering in the soft light like many sequins strewn across her body, there were bags under her eyes, direct evidence of how tired she was. The struggle had lasted many hours, and had only been made longer by the fact that doctors had not anticipated having to deal with the birth of twins. Despite her exhausted, unkempt appearance, however, Fluttershy's blue eyes shone with the love and mirth of a new mother. She looked truly happy as she lay in bed, her lower half tucked underneath the green sheets. Big Macintosh, standing on the left side of his wife's bed, looked almost as tired as she did, and just as happy and proud. He nodded to acknowledge the entrance of his sisters and sister-in-law, stroking Fluttershy's mane all the while. Fluttershy looked up when she heard them enter, her eyes still shining and with abject happiness.
Hello there, Rainbow Dash. AppleJack.
She smiled weakly as she addressed them, her face seeming to glow as she did so.
I'd like you to meet my son, Honeycrisp.
She pointed a yellow hoof, indicating a small golden earth pony foal with a matted mane of deep orange and freckles under his closed eyes, sleeping soundly with his small head against his mother's chest.
And my daughter, Sweet Blossom.
She moved her hoof to point towards her second foal, a little red Pegasus with a pink mane and tail, which looked stunningly reminiscent of that of her mother, upon whose stomach she was silently curled.
They're beautiful, Fluttershy.
Rainbow Dash smiled as she approached the bed, reaching out to lay one of her hooves on that of her oldest friend.
Look, little AJ, look at your new cousins. Soon, you'll be able to play with them. Won't that be fun?
Cousin? Cousin!
For several moments, Rainbow Dash and AppleJack stood in silence, blinking at their daughter as she spoke, and finally grinning at each other when she had finished.
Well, that's a new one.
AppleJack moved to the other side of the bed, stopping next to her brother.
Nice job, big bro.
She punched his shoulder with a hoof, grinning mischievously at him as siblings are apt to do. Big Macintosh smiled back at her, having lived with her for her entire life. He knew the love behind her joking words and playful actions.
Twins, huh? Wow, Fluttershy, I knew you were getting pretty big, but I never thought you'd have twins. Congrats!
Twins? How can they be twins? They don't even look like each other.
SweetieBelle, don't be so rude.
Actually, SweetieBelle, when twins don't look perfectly alike, they're called fraternal twins. That means they are carried and born together, but they don't look the same.
Thank you, Twilight.
Rarity smiled at her friend, who smiled back. Looking around the room, Fluttershy realized that everyone was smiling. Everyone was happy for her. Stifling a yawn, Fluttershy turned her head to look at Big Macintosh, who leaned over to nuzzle the side of her face. Her already warm cheek was comforted and warmed even further by his muzzle, and Fluttershy leaned her head over to rest against her husband's strong shoulder. She flicked her sparkling eyes downward again, gazing lovingly at her son and daughter before she gradually let her eyelids blink closed. Surrounded by friends and family, supported by the strength of her lover, and worn out after a long and trying day, Fluttershy drifted off to join her children in a blissful world of dreams. That was the prologue chapter of the MLP radio play of the MLP fanfiction AppleJoy. The MLP fanfiction is made by BronyNeumo and all rights to the character AppleJoy is owned by him. The fanfiction is based off the TV show My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, which is owned by Hasbro. We claim no rights to any of this.